diverse thinking to the podcast from a generational aspect.
Change doesn't have to be overwhelming. Once you've made change, your mind knows how to make change.
At any stage of our lives, we are unstoppable. Hello and welcome. Welcome to Unstoppable from VisionOne High Performance Group. My name is Lori Moen. I'm a principal consultant at VisionOne High Performance Group, and this podcast is for you, a business leader, business owner, someone who may perhaps feel a little bit stuck, trying to navigate a critical change, maybe struggling to realize your full potential. That's what this Unstoppable podcast is all about. There are three of us here today with our guest, and each of us brings a different perspective to the conversation generationally. Myself, I represent the tail end of the baby boomer generation. We have Tyler Bonahoom, our marketing and sales associate at VisionOne. Tyler brings the mindset and lens of the up and coming generation of leaders. Good to see you, Tyler.
Nice seeing you, Lori.
And we have Michelle Bonahoom, the founder of VisionOne High Performance Group and the author of Unstoppable, the book that shares 7 simple steps to get unstuck, make the big change, and unlock your potential. Hi, Michelle.
Hey, Lori.
I think I'll speak for the group. We are so excited today to hear from our guest, Danita Bye. I had the great fortune of talking to Danita and meeting her earlier, and I was so inspired meeting her, hearing about her journey and how she continues to be clear always on her purpose, her vision, and her values. Danita, welcome. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us.
Well, I am delighted to be here. Michelle is a key part of my story that we'll probably get into. So
absolutely. And what an amazing life journey that you shared with me, starting up by growing in Western North Dakota, starting in college as a pre-med major, working to earn your way through college, transforming into a sales and sales management career through the absolute rigors of the Xerox training program, becoming an angel investor with a medical device company, being part of that management turnaround team, then selling it to Starkey. I loved how you described yourself then as a lost entrepreneur, as you went on to founding a very successful sales growth consultancy firm, and 10 years ago moving back to Western North Dakota to help with your family's oil and gas company and becoming active in North Dakota politics as a governor appointee in the higher education world. Danita, one of the things that really struck me when we talked was, I'd asked you the question of leading as a woman in a male-dominated world. And your answer was, it's really about being the best you can be.
It really is. Yes. And I think it can be easy in today's world to use an excuse of some sort that can be a mindset that can sabotage our effectiveness. And part of our opportunity as a leader is to be aware of those mindsets that might be sabotaging us. Those are lies. And then
Sure.
to install truth.
Yeah. You talked about how you've really held fast to your personal mission and vision and values, which, that's a foundational piece.
I aspire to be hold fast because it's so easy in today's world to, pursue this interesting idea or this interesting idea and something that we may be good at, but it may not be what we are called to do. There's been a couple of instances in my life that have been, I'll call them kind of foundational for me. There is something else, I include this in my book. It's something that when I'm lost or floundering, or this was a word that I received one day that is really an encouragement to me, and I use it to encourage others. I am the great I am. I am calling you. I am anointing you. I am setting you apart for a divine purpose. Rise up and walk in it. Turn your back on how you've done it before. Behold, I am making all things new. I open new vistas and opportunities. Walk in confidence. So for me, that goes back to looking at my identity and always be looking forward to where we're going. And that's actually how the book came about. I couldn't make it to a leadership summit, so I probably, like Michelle said, I've got some extra tickets. Weston, who was, he must have been 20, probably 21 at the time. He went to this amazing leadership retreat. You know, when I called for the debrief call, I expected him to say, "Oh, Mom, this speaker was good and this speaker was good." He didn't say any of that. He said, "Mom, I have a message for you. You must prioritize passing your leadership on to the next generation." And I said, "Weston, let's be real. You have so many talking heads out there that are brilliant. You know, you have Simon Sinek, and I don't even know who else I brought up the day, but there, there's just a plethora of incredible resources." And he said, "Mom, that's not what we need. We need someone who's going to come along and walk beside us." And so it was kind of born out of that conversation. I launched on Millennials Matter, proven strategies for building your next gen leader.
Okay. Okay.
So talk to us a little bit about what you learned during the journey of writing the book, and how are you helping to pass on your leadership to the next generation? And is it
Yeah.
just millennials or other generations?
It really is other generations. You know, one of the opening questions that I often get during an interview is a challenge question, such as, "Well, those millennials and next gen and Gen Z and A, they are head scratchers. What do we do?" And my response is, good leadership is good leadership. So, as part of writing Millennials Matter, I had 12 next gen people review the book. There were other areas that we said, "Oh, it's good to know that that's what good leadership looks like." For instance, one of those is listening. We all know as leaders, it's important to listen. And yet, often that is one of the toughest things for us to do, is to actually listen and to understand. Now, one of the other challenges for leaders, and I'm going to call it a little bit of a buzzword, which is empathy. There's a downside for leaders to have too much empathy, that we sacrifice calling people to be the best that they can be, that we sacrifice encouraging them to tap into their incredible God-given talents. This generation is about more than a paycheck. They want the relationship and the mentoring and the caring that goes with it.
Taking a snapshot of where you're at now and the things that you're involved with and this legacy that you have, how do you keep yourself moving forward and challenging your own self as a continued leader? Because sometimes, we can fall asleep at the wheel.
Mm-hmm. Many of us have to face fear. And we all might be in the same category, that when people from the outside look at us, we come across as confident. Maybe we have our act together. And yet at our core, there may be fear that we're having to deal with. And so I'm going to read something that I wrote down in my journal this morning that addresses some of my own personal reflections, which is a message for me and a message for all of us. And this came from a speaking/leadership coach that I worked with maybe 15 years ago, but it came to mind to me this morning. And it says, "Fear spreads a layer of Vaseline over your eyes, preventing you from seeing clearly. Gratitude dissolves the Vaseline and restores your ability to see what is and what can be." I do think that we live in a culture that is peddling fear. If a social media company or any marketing company is going to get your attention quickly and get you to act, they have to create this gap and the fear that you're going to be missing out on something. So we have this fear that comes culturally, and then we have the fear that we might have internally. And as leaders, that's our opportunity to confront that, to deal with it. And as we're calm, confident, collected on the inside, that that's going to exude and help those that we lead and that we influence be the best that they can be also.
Sure. The thought that you shared with us from your journal from this morning from the speech coach, you used the word gratitude in that. And when I heard that, it reminded me of our conversation about the importance of the word gratitude. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that word and the driving force it has.
I typically don't set New Year's goals, but I have New Year's words. And this is my second year of gratitude as being a New Year's word. And what I believe and what I'm coming to understand more and more is that gratitude unlocks our creativeness. It allows us to see new opportunities. It allows us to see what really is. And so, in the midst of whether it's dealing with difficult situations, difficult people, that we can take some time to go back and be grateful for either some of the things we're learning or some of the things we're working on. I remember the very first time someone challenged me on this principle I've been going through, and they challenged me to list 3 positive things about them before the end of the day. Just that exercise in staying with it. And what I've come to understand through neuroscience is that there are times that we need to practice building and laying down neural pathways that are positive, and that as we do that, we're going to unlock creative ideas, innovation, relationships. We're going to unlock our own confidence. We're going to unlock our own resources. We're going to unlock additional connections with other people. So I'm focusing on gratitude for a second year in a row.
Wow. That's awesome. I love how you set intention. I remember 7 years ago when my late husband passed away, the Lord had me go through a season studying the word gratitude. And so I appreciate the fact that you brought that up, because I remember at the time realizing gratitude, actually, when you dig into the root of the word gratitude, it's a verb, meaning we have to do something. And so, when you talk about neuroscience and setting intention, that's absolutely true. Like when we set intention around gratitude, it unlocks potential, right? As you look back over your leadership over the last several years, what have you learned that you can carry forward into your new focuses for the future?
One is always with, the personal family relationships. Those are always key, looking at who we are, who we're called to be, and what our long-term legacy is. The key for me is having clarity on what my vision, mission, and values are. Staying aligned with those and having a kind of an entrepreneurial spirit myself is to not get caught off doing something that's in the good category, but not necessarily in the great category. And I will give you an example. One of the things that I'm very involved in with the State Board of Higher Ed is how the world is shifting and changing with this whole digital disruption and generative AI and transhumanism, and how in the midst of that, do we as leaders continue to stay grounded on foundational principles? Every 500 years, we have a new era. How do we continue to have solid leadership during that time? And how do we train up the next generation to lead well in that area?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, because a lot of our audience, most of our audience are business leaders, business
Mhm.
owners, and they're thinking about the challenge of transitioning generation, succession planning, and then how do we start to train up the next generation of leadership. And so I'd love to hear some of the things that you're thinking about and some of the solutions that you're working with within education, because that's definitely a passion of ours at VisionOne as well. We do a lot of work with companies, helping them change how education even happens in and outside of the workplace.
Absolutely. So all that is important. And I'm going to come back to good leadership is good leadership. You still need to be, as a leader, you still need to cast the vision for the future. You still need to have strong strategies. You still need to be aligning resources, and you still need to be motivating and coaching your people to be the best that they can be.
That's great. Stick to the basics, right?
We are human beings. We are not transhumans yet.
Yes, right. So Tyler, I'm curious, Danita talks a lot about the importance of being a good leader and the importance of good leaders really raising up the next generation of leaders. So what do you have in regards to what you need as a leader and speak for your generation?
Yeah, well, Danita, a huge question that I have, and this is something that I've kind of seen as I have constantly been leading kids my age. Something that I constantly run into with the younger generation is you are not their main priority, and it's hard to get them on board. And how do you lead them in a way where they feel like what you care about the most should be what they care about the most? Because from what I've seen, a lot of the times it's hard to give them a project and for them to really put all their effort into it. What steps do you take to lead someone, especially from the younger generation, but even anyone, in a way of what I want is going to be what you want so that we can win together?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're absolutely right. And it's important for us to listen. And I believe that part of our role as a leader is looking at both how they be the best both personally and professionally. And that's the way that we signify that we care about you as a human being. And when we care about them as a human being, then they can bring their whole selves to work when they are at work. I actually look at my vision, mission, and values on a weekly basis. One of the things that I've observed is that successful leaders always have some time that they set aside to reflect. And then when there's big shifts and changes that are happening, I'm like going, oh, I might need to sit on this idea for a quarter. That kingdom confidence comes with covenant clarity. So it's the concept that as leaders, we want to be courageous when we're out there. That courage comes as we get additional internal clarity.
My leadership through watching you as a strong female leader. And so I just want to thank you and let you know how grateful I am for you. But I think, I wrote down 3 words that kind of summarize for me what you talked about. The first was know yourself. You talked about a lot of times we get caught up in doing what we do good or well and not focus on what we do really great. And so to really know yourself at a level where you can say, this is what I'm great at, and I'm going to focus here and say no to everything else. I think the second thing that I heard you talk a lot about in your examples was just intentionality, intentionally setting your steps, intentionally being grateful, intentionally aligning. And that's kind of the ultimate thing that I heard is I wrote down alignment, but that is, knowing your mission, your vision, your values, and using that as your plumb line as you go through life, but then also aligning to the other generations. I heard you talk a lot about leadership being the way to do that. And, I just always think, I'm passionate about legacy myself. And I'm always thinking about the fact that if we just stick to focusing on what we can do in our life, nothing is going to happen and all great things come to an end. But if we can really capture the dreams of a past generation and the vision of a future generation, and we can be a bridge for that, like there's so much power. So you're a walking example of that. And thank you for the mission that you have to help the generations understand that and to learn how to leave a legacy.
Well, thank you. And it's a constant journey. And as an activator, achiever, maximizer, always looking to up my game. So,
That's
so
awesome.
I appreciate the work that you guys do.
You
Awesome.
bet.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in to this episode of Unstoppable. We hope this episode left you inspired, maybe ready to take that first step to face some challenges, start getting unstuck, start making your desired change happen in your life, in your business, in your community. Here at Vision One, we are passionate. We're passionate about helping businesses, leaders, organizations, and communities in effectively navigating critical change, such as growing your business, getting your business ready to exit, getting yourself ready for your next act, your next chapter, and transitioning to that next generation of leadership. Imagine having a team that's working beside you every step of the way, providing strategic planning, fractional finance resources, operational and HR resources, and it's tailored for you. That's what Vision One High Performance Group offers. So if you're interested in learning more about how we can help you get unstuck, be unstoppable, and make big changes, so let's connect. Maybe through an unstoppable peer group, a retreat, an internal workshop. I invite you to check in at our website, visiononeperformance.com, and let's start a conversation.